a lot of Bengals fans seem to be a little bit more invested now. Last night's Thursday night football game was supposed to be the Browns and the Bengals, and for the fact that they got flexed out of that, for the fact that the Bengals didn't play last night, there's a lot of Bengals talk on national sports talk this morning and local, because all of a sudden the playoff chances are significantly higher now. Well, I shouldn't say significantly, but the probability seems a little bit more in favor of the Bengals to make the postseason. I know we lightly touched on it to open the show, but we buying back in the likelihood of this happening. It seems like there's a very good chance the Bengals could play themselves back into the playoff picture if they're not already there now.
They at least have a chance to control their own destiny to play meaningful football until the end of the year, which is a pretty good spot to be in after the way the seasons went so far. I don't think a lot of people thought we'd get to this position, and last night was a pretty significant jump in the Bengals' playoff chances, operating with the assumption that the Bengals win out, because we know that they have to do that to have any kind of chance. A Broncos win with the Bengals winning out had the Bengals at a 7% chance. With the Chargers winning, they're up to a 33% chance with winning out to make the playoffs. If the Colts lose this weekend to the Titans and the Niners beat the Dolphins, that's up to a 58% chance if you win out to make the playoffs. We're over a coin flip with two outcomes this weekend that aren't much of a stretch. The Niners are a point favorite.
Yeah, I do think the Bengals have a significant chance after last night. But again, it's hard for me to buy back in. You're assuming they beat the Broncos and the Steelers. They have yet to beat a team with a winning record this season. They haven't beaten a good team. Every single one of their 6 wins has been, respectfully, a garbage team. They've been teams that aren't even close to contention. And in a league this year where we've seen more bad teams than maybe ever. I don't know if I remember an NFL season
it's pretty
where
bad.
there's been this many truly awful NFL teams. To be fair to the Bengals, you beat most of them. I mean, you beat most of the bad teams on your schedule. The one at the very beginning of your season is going to end up costing you. But if you would have won that game and you take care of the Broncos and the Browns and the Steelers, you're a playoff team. If you would have done your job, you would have been a playoff team. But the Bengals didn't do that. Now you have to bank on other people, other teams. I think there's a real chance that the Colts do not win out. I know people say, oh, the Colts have an easier schedule. The Colts have this thing similarly to the Bengals, maybe even the Reds. Towards the end of the season, the Colts, they usually lose a game or two.
They find a way to miss the playoffs.
Yeah, it's like last year. It was the fumble, or was it the drop? It was a drop.
It was the
right?
drop. Yeah.
It was a wide open catch for a first down. Didn't get it. Dropped it. Lose the game. Missed the postseason. I do think there's going to be some sort of magic against the Colts heading down the stretch, and the Bengals take advantage of that. I don't think the Miami Dolphins are good at all. I don't know what's going on with Tyreek Hill. I don't know what's going on with Tua. I don't understand that roster. And the fact that they're even talks about them making the postseason is crazy, because I just don't think that team had it from the jump this season. I know they lost their quarterback for a long stretch there, but I just don't see it. And outside of that, it comes down to that final week, Broncos versus Chiefs. You need the Texans or the Steelers to take care of the Chiefs. As long as one of those two happens, because the Bills aren't going to lose out. They're not going to lose a game the rest of the way down the stretch here. If you're able to have the Chiefs beat the Broncos in that final week, as long as they're playing for something, then the Bengals will at least be playing for their season Week 18 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And it would be interesting to see what they do. There's a lot that has to happen here. I know for our direct scenario, it's the Colts, it's the Dolphins, and the Broncos. But you also need the Steelers to win out down the stretch. You need the Chiefs to at least lose one of the next two, so they're playing for something in their final game. So there's a lot of different scenarios right now. And the craziest part of it all is the Bengals just have to take care of their own business. You just have to win against the Browns. I'd like it to be an easy win. I'd like them to just take care of the Browns so I don't have to worry about it after halftime, let's say. But I know better than that. It's going to be close, and it's going to come down to the wire. So I'm not bought back in completely, but there is hope. I mean, there is a glimmer of light for sure.
Yeah, if the Steelers win these next two games, it helps us more than we even know. Because they would clinch if they beat the Ravens and therefore not play starters in Week 18, clinch the AFC North. And if they beat the Chiefs, then the Chiefs would have to play starters in Week 18. So as weird as it sounds and as much as I hate it, we're Steelers fans for the next 2 weeks as well.
So it's interesting because you look at the narrative for the Bengals season this year, it's like nothing has gone right. That literally nothing has fallen in place for the Bengals at all. And I actually think it's the opposite. I think so much has fallen in place for the Bengals, and that's what has made it frustrating that this team has not been able to capitalize on that. And what I mean by that is, like, you look at the fact that you come into this season for the first time with Joe Burrow being healthy for a full, preseason, for a full camp. You have a last place, schedule. We thought all 4 AFC North teams are going to be competing for the playoffs, and then the Browns end up being as bad as the Bengals have been. The Browns have been significantly worse. The Ravens have not been as dominant, although, again, 2 wins over the Bengals. The Ravens haven't been as untouchable as what you'd like to think. The AFC is not as strong as what you would like to think. There's so many things that have actually fallen into place that the Bengals, if they played up to expectations, all of this should have just been dominating the National Football League. Things have fallen into place for the Bengals all season. They just haven't been able to capitalize on it. This is another opportunity that things have technically fallen into place for them to capitalize on when you think about the circumstances. The fact that the Colts and the Dolphins are vulnerable, that they're not, untouchable right now. And they, of course, when you look at the playoff scenarios for what has to go right, the Colts have to lose at least one more. The Dolphins have to lose one more. That is in favor of the Bengals. That is very much a possibility. The fact that you now get to control your own destiny. You play a very, very bad Browns team. You have the Broncos coming up. You control giving them another loss on the season. Plus, they end the season against the Kansas City Chiefs. You could not ask for a more tougher opponent for the Broncos to close it out against. And then you play Pittsburgh, which may sound tough, yes, because the fact that you haven't beat a team over 500 all year, but they're most likely going to be resting starters in that final week of the regular season. As negative as it's easy to be when it comes to how bad this season has been, this is another door that's been cracked open for the Bengals as far as opportunities to get back into the playoff picture, because they've, as bad as they've been all year, they have never been buried. And right now, they're still not even close to being buried. They still have a shot, and they haven't been able to capitalize on opportunities all season. They have another opportunity here. It'll be interesting to see if this is they have one more big swing left in them. Can they capitalize on it? Obviously, they just got to take care of business and win their final 3 games.
They should be. They should be dead. They should be buried. They should be buried. 6-8. It's been a horrible season. And I'm going to go against you a little bit because I do think nothing has gone right. You look at that Chiefs game, and whether or not you want to say that's pass interference or not, it was one call that decided the outcome of a football game, and that just can't happen. But it does consistently in the NFL, and that's unfortunately what happens. The Ravens game, you get the lucky fumble. You think it bounces your way. What happens on the hold? What happens on the snap? He muffs it. You lose to the Ravens. It comes down to the Ravens a second time. You have a big lead. You lose the lead. It comes down to a 2-point conversion. 3 different penalties on that 2-point play. None of them called. Bengals lose. And again, you can't really put all this on one play per game. You lose the games because of this absolutely disgusting defense. But you can look at a bunch of games, the Chargers. You look at a bunch of games this season, and it just hasn't gone the Bengals' way at any point during this season. The first time it went the Bengals' way this season was 2 weeks ago. And outside of that, I don't think the Bengals have had any luck. You need a little bit of luck. The Chiefs have had, and I can't say anything about the Chiefs because all they do is win. Every single game they've played, they've been lucky. Every single game they've had that luck, the luck factor. And eventually luck does run out. That's what happened in 2021. Luck eventually finds you, and it quits. So maybe that'll happen with the Chiefs. I don't know. But in counterpart there, I do think luck is going to find the Bengals eventually, because you can't play an entire season without getting lucky once.